In this video, I want to talk about the next Vanguard Zombies DLC map and seemingly the finale. Season 5 is set to release on August the 24th according to the Battle Pass end date for Season 4, but there's no official word on when the next map will actually release yet. Now, there have actually been 2 maps found in the files, one codenamed Beige and one codenamed Red, which apparently shares the name for a cut chaos map, so it could just be left over, but maybe Red could simply be a survival map or something. With us heading back to Egypt next, potentially by the Temple of Osiris, with some parts of Terra Maledicta mixed in, but likely not all, if any, although it'll most likely have a similar aesthetic to Terra Maledicta. Krafft says that is where the final battle is going to take place at the end of the Shinonuma quest.
We will need it all for our final battle on the sands of Egypt.
Maybe the codenamed Red map could be a bonus survival map just taking place in the Dark Aether. If a boss fight with Kortifex takes place in there, maybe it could unlock a survival version of that arena. Just speculation though, we'll have to wait and see what Shrek actually have planned. Although, speaking of this upcoming map, it begs the question, with the story concluding not long from now, how exactly will it end? Following Shinonuma's release, there's been a lot of discussions around whether Kortifex is tricking Von List and subsequently us. It has seemed weird how he's been falling into our hands so easily yet remains unfazed. Most noticeably, and as Magua has pointed out, he stated, "I think Kortifex could be purposefully trying to get us to use the relic mirror against him that we collected in the Shinonuma quest." In one of the new Shinonuma pieces of intel, Kortifex says how everything is falling into place for him, which obviously isn't what we are seeing unfold, or at least what we're being led to believe. But Zabella begins questioning him, which makes Kortifex enraged, and he urges Zabella to have more faith in him.
My lord, why are we still wasting time here? Why have we not already seized the construct? And why do we need this red blood fool, this mortal, this Von List?
Zabala, your eagerness to serve me is beginning to sound like impatience.
But with all the power you have granted him, he should have exterminated our enemies by now. He is unworthy of our help, unworthy of you, Lord Kortifex. I don't understand why you...
You run that mouth far too much, and you see far too little. How has it escaped your notice that everything is coming together for me? Even Verkana is here to share her punishment alongside the traitors Nauticus and Invictor. Everything is proceeding exactly as I intend. How dare you even think anything to the contrary?
Lord Kortifex, I am sorry. Please forgive me.
I don't do forgiveness, Zabala. Now get back to your duties.
In another piece of Shinonuma intel where Von List and Kortifex are talking to one another, the following is conversed.
Kortifex, I can't stop thinking about that verdammt tome page Krafft and his soldiers stole from us. You assured me it was safe, that nothing could penetrate that void spell. How could you let it fall into enemy hands? Now Krafft knows how to stop us.
Knowing something and being able to do it are two different things, Wolfram.
You do not sound very concerned. Why is that?
For the same reason you do not concern yourself with insects. Krafft is nothing.
I might agree. Were he not still alive when you said we would crush him weeks ago? Remind me, what exactly am I getting out of this partnership?
I am not your servant, nor are you mine. We simply have mutual interests. And if Krafft still lives, it is because you have failed to kill him. Now, if you wish to end our alliance, I'll take my power to raise the dead and return to my scepter. You can carry on with your handful of surviving soldiers.
9, Kortifex. We still need each other, as you so bluntly point out.
Then tell me, Wolfram, do you think I wanted them to get that page?
No, Kortifex. It would not make any sense.
This is just such a weird conversation because it just abruptly ends after Kortifex says would it, which is kind of weird as if they are hinting at something. And I thought the exact same thing as Magua when I first listened to this dialogue. It does seem like Kortifex has an ulterior motive up his sleeve, one that Zabella and Von List are not aware of. He's not interested in these people, they're just pawns in his own plan. Throughout the Call of Duty Zombies storyline, we've seen so many plot devices being that of deception, from the Shadow Man to Zykov. It's a trope that Treyarch commonly like to use where they have the main bad guy tricking us throughout the whole game and we fall right into their hands at the end. Cal posted a nice summary to Twitter saying Kortifex doesn't care when Krafft gets the tome pages, which was very odd. Kortifex doesn't care about the crystals encroaching into the overworld, he doesn't care about us seemingly beating his very little resistance, and all of this seems to be suggesting that Kortifex isn't being totally honest with Von List, and him and I guess us the players that are seeing this unfold have been getting deceived. No way would the current overlord of the Dark Aether be so tame. There is more than meets the eye at play here. One very important thing to think about is how exactly was Zykov able to consume the old ones and Kortifex so easily. We might have actually enabled that to happen with what ends up happening on the final map. I asked on Twitter how people expect the Vanguard Zombies story to conclude and I got some pretty solid responses. Magua stated he believes that Kortifex will betray Von List, which seems like almost certainty at this point. He reckons that Kortifex's last stand / boss fight, whatever ends up happening, is going to be in front of the Construct, seen on Terra Maledicta, and maybe we interrupt him just in time to prevent him from doing whatever he wants with the Construct, and maybe Kortifex is left there dead, and his body just lies there, and we don't actually find out what happens. He thinks that the Dark Aether entities that have been helping us will betray us, and we will barely make it out in time, and that Krafft will sacrifice himself to sever the connection between the Dark Aether entities via the artifacts and the operators. Magua doesn't believe that we will actually see Zykov in the next map, considering that he reckons by the time that this fourth map takes place, he likely wouldn't have entered the Dark Aether yet. And maybe that could be the case, and then he finds his body later on and consumes it, explaining how it was so easy for him to harness Kortifex's powers. We know that Zykov managed to consume all of the old ones in the Dark Aether, and that's how he got so powerful. And there is intel in Cold War Zombies that talks about his first encounter with the dead Elder God, and Kortifex could have actually been what he was talking about, and if he managed to consume Kortifex's powers whilst he was already deceased thanks to us in the final map in Vanguard Zombies, well, with him getting the powers of Kortifex, it would explain how he was then able to go on and defeat the other old ones and Elder Gods, because he had that power jump from the start, which we basically gave to him. Cal has theorized that Kortifex betrays Von List in order to secure the Construct, and he thinks that us, the players, the operators in this following map, will likely separate the bond between Von List and Kortifex, and that will actually allow these events to unfold and play into Kortifex's scheme. And this could have been the goal from the start. Kortifex could be using not just Von List, but also us, the players, and by severing that bond, we might be playing right into his hands. Cal also theorizes that Krafft will sacrifice himself in order to stop Kortifex and separate us from the Dark Aether once again, since he is still trapped in the spell in Der Anfang. Cal thinks that the Construct is going to be set up as a long-term plot point, which will likely be used by Eddie Richtofen. We know that after the events of Cold War Zombies, it's going to pick up 5 years later in the 90s. We just don't know what Eddie's goal is. We know he's been working with this uber-rich group, which could potentially be a modern-day version of the Société Occulte, and they have been funding his goals, but Eddie is most likely using this group just for funding, whilst he actually has a more sinister motive than whatever they have. And maybe that motive is to rescue his son Samuel, as Mr. Peaks might be keeping Samuel safe in a dark place. And I talked about and theorized in a prior video that Mr. Peaks could be what Kortifex turned his child with Syraxis into. We know that the Construct is a monolith device that has the ability to control everyone. Eddie might be trying to garner this. This could be the end goal of Project Janus, to open a gateway to the Dark Aether and gain access to the Construct. Eddie, of course, has prior knowledge of the Dark Aether thanks to him remembering events of the Aether story, and seems to at least have some of the Tome of Ritual pages and some of the artifacts, explaining Requiem's advancements and knowledge and technology in Cold War Zombies. Shi no Numa in Vanguard Zombies has made chaos canon to the Dark Aether story, which I'm sure you've heard about before, most likely with there just being a new iteration of Alistair Rhodes in the rebooted universe, and the chaos story events don't actually happen in this universe, although it is interesting to theorize that there are red crystals when the Sentinel artifacts are activated, which just so happen to look exactly like the red Dark Aether crystals that we see in Vanguard Zombies, so I'm wondering if there is some sort of parallel there. Kevin Drew did tweet to me implying that there is more to the chaos story being canon than meets the eye, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'll definitely be working on a huge updated entire zombie storyline video once the Vanguard Zombies story concludes, so you're all ready for the next COD Zombies game likely in 2024, but it's going to be a big video because it's going to have to include all of Aether, all of Dark Aether, including Vanguard Zombies, and probably the chaos story too. Before I continue with the rest of the video, I just have a quick message for you and then we'll jump right back into it. This video has been kindly sponsored by Blood of Yamin, which is a stylish Metroidvania RPG where you can forge your own playstyle. Powered by the essence of a dead god, explore a gorgeous 2D world on the cusp of the Industrial Revolution, conquer powerful foes, and confront the unknown horrors lurking beneath the surface. Venture through and make your mark, set in a world where man has just learned to harvest the essence of a dead god, explore, collect, and slay your way across Yamin from a side-scrolling perspective. Along your journey, you'll brave the wilderness, which is packed to the brim with outlaws and monsters. You'll explore dense cities to shop, gather information, and begin quests to prepare for that expedition to the wilds. You'll learn new abilities to unlock dangerous areas and overcome the enemies that await you there. Join one of the 3 influential guilds and leave your mark for whatever cause you deem worthy. Uncover the mystery of Roshi, a god all but forgotten, and learn the dangers lurking beneath the world's surface. And when you are ready, brave the depths below for demanding high-end content that will push your skills and preparation to its absolute limit. You can add the game to your Steam wishlist via the link in the description, and be sure to follow the developers Quintillion Games on Twitter and Instagram, as they will be hosting a Kickstarter, so make sure to follow the studio's socials to be aware of when it debuts and stay up to date on all the latest info on the game. You can also check out the full cinematic trailer for the game on YouTube, which you will have seen being showcased in the background. The game's main features include it being conversed with colourful characters, experiment with different weapons and spells, unlock mobility skills to further exploration and uncover secrets, utilise powerful combat abilities to decimate enemies, build a unique character through a variety of stats and abilities, navigate dangerous environmental hazards, solve complex environmental puzzles, craft helpful gear, add nourishing meals to aid in adventuring, loot equipment and gather components for crafting, employ fast travel to zip around the map and ease backtracking pains, explore a vibrant world featuring mystical forests, sprawling cities and harrowing depths. So yeah, with all that being said, check out all of the links below if you are interested for when the game eventually releases. As Magua has explained on Twitter, in the Shi no Numa intel, we learn that the area in Terra Maledicta has become a stronger gateway from the Dark Aether to our world, which is why this Dark Aether arena, being the area where we defeat Von List, is very likely. Magua says he remembers about intel on Terra Maledicta, how suddenly an explosion happened that killed a bunch of people, and it was seemingly not caused by Die Wahrheit, and the special forces were still in Dirt and Fang. I talked about this in a prior video, but Cal and others have theorized that members of the Société Occulte might have infiltrated Die Wahrheit and be breaking up from within, explaining why the Wonder Dwarf was left behind on Shi no Numa as well. In the files of Vanguard Zombies, we know that a Frenzied Guard Artifact has been added, so it might be coming with the next map. Of course, like in Cold War Zombies, when triggered, it allows zombies to target the user for a brief period, during which only armor will take damage. We don't know exactly how it's going to work in Vanguard Zombies though. There is a radio on Shi no Numa, and Invicta brought up how they'll need a Decimator for this upcoming battle with Kortifex.
You have changed for the better, and as for loyalty, you now have mine.
Then let us finish this fight!
together.
So it's very likely that Frenzied Guard is going to be the artifact for Decimator, since he is now a shield. This makes complete sense with the abilities of Frenzied Guard. So the Decimator might be bonded with an artifact. That'll either come before the next map releases or with it. I've always wondered, what if Kortifex wants to get consumed and it's part of his plan? It would explain as to why he's unfazed by our progress, and as I said earlier, it does seem weird how Zykov would enter the Dark Aether and then just overthrow everything, the entire hierarchy. I doubt Kortifex wanting to be consumed would be the case though, but it would be a nice twist. After all, he may return the next game after Zykov has been defeated and the Forsaken has been trapped in the containment chamber, thus freeing all of the old ones and their powers that he consumed. The old ones are very likely returning as the Zealot Sporagmos has prophesied. Weaver305 has a nice thread on Twitter saying, just saying, if you're having trouble imagining the Vanguard Zombie story in comparison to the Cold War Zombie story, think of the Vanguard story as the Dark Aether during the medieval ages, and when Zykov arrived, he kickstarted the Industrial Revolution to the point where the Dark Aether has generals and commanders like a military and combative force. This would imply that feudalism and tribal-based systems are inherent to the Dark Aether, as the existence of Kortifex and Syraxis being of a royal bloodline literally prove that the concept of formalism exists, as Kortifex is a ruler. What gets to me is how the hell did Zykov effectively kickstart an industrial revolution within the Dark Aether, so much so it got to the point where the Dark Aether is irreversibly changed. It reminds me of Stalin's role in the industrialization of the USSR and how he had his 5-year plans. Is that what Zykov did to the Dark Aether? But here's the thing, if Zykov effectively is Stalin or in some way similar, then the royal family that Kortifex is a part of is likely to echo the Tsars, and if Mr. Peaks is a missing member, then it would be similar to Anastasia. I just think it's interesting how the Dark Aether has shifted in so little time, and everything I said isn't one-to-one of this story, but rather a simplification of what likely is very complex politics we don't even know about as humans. Of course, time works differently in the Dark Aether. We don't know exactly how much time has passed, so it is possible that so much time has passed, and that just explains why there has been such rapid change in the Dark Aether, and it works so differently to the regular world anyways. We know that the Dark Aether was a lot more archaic during medieval times though, and jumping to Cold War Zombies, it changed drastically with Zykov in control. I want to point to some tweets by Cherry Gamer now, and she reckons not only are we being tricked by Kortifex, but potentially Syraxis and even Gabriel Krafft too. I'm not exactly convinced by this though, but we'll have to wait and see. I definitely think Kortifex is playing us, but Krafft has seemed to be a good bad guy the entire time, but it is possible he's also tricking us, which I guess would throw Marguaz and Cal's theory out of the window that he would sacrifice himself for the greater good in the final map. Anyway, she tweeted, bro, we are literally powering Syraxis up through these quests. You are not going to make me believe that Kortifex is gaining control of a damn thing. I bet he's a red herring and we are getting misdirected hard. I don't trust Syraxis or Krafft at all. She said maybe we're being deceived by Syraxis and not Kortifex, or both. Well, we're definitely being deceived by Kortifex, as I've established earlier. Mike said the artifacts are one thing, but why Krafft? She said Krafft's narrative tone switches up on this map. He isn't talking to us here, he's talking about us now, and at the end he says we grow to trust him and hopes that we'll forgive him, which to me screams to not trust him. She says she has a million reasons as to why she doesn't trust Krafft. He says he got a letter from his wife, the main motivator in getting the artifacts in the first place, but literally tells the player that there was no personal references, no indication it was actually from her. So why? Could be a million things. Maybe he knows Sasha is already dead and this is all a revenge story. Maybe he's insane, or maybe he does believe the letter is from her, but then you also have to question his sanity because it goes against rationality. Krafft says in Dirt and Feige wasn't on the expedition that recovered Kortifex's scepter. He only knows it was found in Egypt when Shinonuma. He says he was there and saw all of the secrets in that chamber. Before the events of Dirt and Fang, Von List locks Krafft in his office and the other artifacts. He picklocks a trunk to get access to them, reminiscing how his Sasha taught him to pick a lock. Begs the question, why didn't he try the door? Nicole says, a bigger question is why would Von List lock Krafft in a room with the artifacts? Cherry says, finally someone asking the right questions. She goes on to say Krafft instantly identified the first pages Von List gave him as the Tome of Rituals, but goes on to tell the player only the Société Occulte's most inner circle had seen the contents, so how did he recognize the pages if they were kept a secret? This was before all that. When he got the first pages to start his search, he said he recognized the pages, and Von List continued to use him because of that. So Cherry does bring up a lot of really convincing points. What do you think Krafft is up to? Do you think he's also playing us? If so, for what goal? Because that's the thing, I do understand that there's been a lot of inconsistencies with what he's been saying, but I just can't seem to piece together what his motivation would be for lying to us intentionally, if intentionally that is, unless this is all just a mistake. It seems very obvious as to why Kortifex may be lying to us, but not so much for Krafft. We'll have to wait and see what ends up happening in the last map though. It would be funny if just everyone has been lying to us this entire time and the table completely flips and everyone double-crossed us. It just seems like that would be a bit too much for the finale though. It almost feels like there would be too much plot going on. Anyways, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for the latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching and bye.